Welcome to the party, pal. You're from the neighborhood Master Chaos back with you once again. It's time to unleash the solid metal kraken yet again for part 3 of my deep dive coverage of Solid Metal Nightmares, the films of Shinya Tsukamoto, the Japanese director behind some of the most interesting, mind-bending, and unique Japanese films ever made. And that's saying a lot. Notice I said Japanese films, and those are quite unique already. So for Shinya to stand out, boy, he's got to be delivering some hardcore insanity. Alright. Disc 3, Part 3. We're talking about a pair of films and a short film, which I'll touch on towards the end. Let's kick things off with A Snake of June. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow, wow. At under 120 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes, I should say. It's about an hour and 16 minutes. A Snake of June is a movie that, with your first watch, it's kind of hard to quantify. It's a hard film to really predict, which is a good thing, and it's a hard film to put in reductive terms, at least with your first time through, because you're not sure where it's going. You're really not sure what the hell is happening, and it isn't until you get to the final frame, the credits start to roll, and you let the whole movie play over and over in your head, and you realize, oh wow, this is wow. It's one of those kind of movies, and I kind of love those. I really love those type of movies that maybe it's almost inscrutable your first time through, and you're like, this is ridiculous. Why is this being celebrated? Why is anybody watching this? Why does anybody give a shit? And then you get to the end, and it's like a book. It's like a poem. It really is all about the ending, in my opinion. The destination is important. We're all concerned with the destination in our lives. In a movie, we get a finite ending, and that's where we all expect to have everything explained, everything solved, all that stuff. Now, that's not always true in movies, especially in art house type cinema like this. But what Tsukamoto does, especially here, and also similarly in stuff like Bullet Ballet or Tokyo Fist, is he gives us a very unique look at very individual loners. In this case, the film revolves around a husband and wife who are almost asexual to each other. He has no interest in her, and I think she wants to try to have a normal relationship, but he's just so boring and blank and plain and uninterested in life almost, that she can't. And so that repression shows up in different ways. Let me backtrack, and I'll explain how this repressed couple's story plays into A Snake of June. The film is set during the rainy season, I believe June, the month of June, in Japan, and it's raining the whole time. I'm a sucker for rain in movies. I don't know why, I just love rain in movies. I think it's just a beautiful, Rashomon with the rain, oh my god, it's just powerful imagery. The rain is just it's a force of nature that at the same time could be cozy and terrifying, and there's just something about it, the hidden menace of it, and the hidden comfort of it, that working in concert just gives this movie an extra level of the only word for it is an extra level of unsettling appeal. Going into it, it's very atmospheric. It's shot in monochrome. He decided to, instead of go with the black and white of Bullet Ballet or Tetsuo, he went with black and blue. The bluish tinge, I think, is a reference to hydrangeas, which is a flower that blooms during the rainy season. And if I remember correctly, in the behind the scenes, one of the interviews, archival interviews with Tsukamoto, he mentions that he wanted to capture the color of wet cement in the city, so it sort of has that, cement kind of look to it, wet cement kind of look to it. I really like that. I like that description very much because there's a lot of wet cement in the movie. So the movie's black and blue. The cover isn't just artsy. This is what the movie looks like. But that's all artifice. What is the meat? What is the meat of the movie? Let's get into that. Usually referred to as a psychosexual drama, A Snake of June revolves around the character of Rinko, a young woman, the repressed housewife, who works in a crisis hotline, kind of a suicide hotline kind of thing. And I assume that's a big thing in Japan. From what we all know of Japan, it seems like their suicide rate is astronomical. And so she works helping people sort of, talk them off the ledge, for lack of a better term. Anyway, she helps this one guy on the phone, and he's a photographer, I guess a porno photographer, for magazines. And he decides to help her find a new lease on life, just like she helped him. He follows her around. We don't really see the stalking happening, but we find out about it afterwards. She receives pictures of herself masturbating and wearing a leather skirt and sort of being very, playing very much against type. At first, she's freaked out. She's like, oh my God, someone's going to tell my husband. But I don't know why he would get mad at her, because it wasn't like she didn't have an affair or anything. Some creepy guy took pictures of her. So I don't know why she would get in trouble specifically. But anyway, the guy calls, the photographer calls, and he says, hey, I want to help you, and live out your wildest dream. I want you to do what you want. It'll help you break out of your shell. So he basically threatens her to show the pictures to her husband unless she does what he says. And he doesn't want to have sex with her. He's not going to rape her or anything like that. He just wants her to live out her wildest fantasy, which is apparently wearing a leather skirt and wearing a leather mini skirt in public, and shoving a vibrator up inside her and walking down the street. Okay, everybody's got a thing, and that's Rinko's thing. She does it. I'm not giving any real spoilers away here. That's part of the plot. I won't give the denouement away, but I will say she does do that. She feels reawakened, and then she realizes, maybe this is a way I could ask this man for help. This is a way to revitalize my marriage if something similar could happen to my husband. That's where I'll leave it story-wise. I don't want to go too deep into it. Needless to say, this erratic, unorthodox, psychological sex drama, which doesn't have any sex in it and really only has one scene of nudity, well, maybe two, I guess the beginning shows some pictures, is really all about a broken marriage trying to repair itself. Amazing. I mean, what the hell? What a brilliant next level story move. Tsukamoto continues to blow me away with his twisting and turning of the stories and the world and the people that we think we know. I don't think anyone else would have made this type of movie, because, on the surface, it does feel not porny, but it's definitely very sleazy. It almost, in the hands of a Jess Franco, this would have been a very awful kind of experience in a very sweaty type of movie. But the movie, while it's coated in wetness because of the rain, is the dry examination of a marriage that's failing and the desperate act that a wife takes to try to repair that situation, restore that love that was between them at one point. And the ending is a just jaw-dropping, gorgeous. I mean, honestly, I'm just thinking about it now, and I'm at a loss for words to really get across how unique and how unorthodox. I keep going to that word. It's a very unorthodox ending. It's a very unorthodox movie altogether. But we've come to expect that from Shinya, our old pal Shinya. Here, he delivers a movie that on every level shouldn't work, but it does, because we understand human psychology. At least we try to understand it. We understand how people think. We understand how people feel. you understand how people love. And A Snake of June is the kind of movie that I want you to stick with. It's only an hour and 16 minutes, 18 minutes, something like that. I want you to stick with it. By the end, I think it'll win you over, and you'll realize what a unique story you've been given. And if you still don't get it, listen to the commentary by Tom Mez. It's really great. He points out everything, and you'll walk away fairly enlightened. This is a slam dunk of a movie. I'm very honored to have experienced this. This is unlike anything I've ever seen. Quite a wonderful film. And I'm happy to report that the next film I'm going to be talking about is just as wonderful, if not 10 times better. Snake of June is going to get 4 stars from me. It is kind of a tedious watch at first because you don't know what's happening, and it'll feel kind of sleazy and scummy. But give it time, let it develop, and by the end, I think you'll be won over. I hope so, anyway. Okay, let's talk about our next film, which happens to be Vital. This movie was something I was not prepared for. I just was not ready for this movie. This is all about the grieving process. And I'll tell you, I'm sure like yourself, like anyone, I've had a lot of loss in my life. I've had to deal with grief quite a bit. Every day, almost. It's tough. It's hard. It's awful. And it's part of the human experience. It's part of the human condition. We will all grieve at some point. Family, friends, loved ones. We will lose someone at some point in our life. That's just how it goes. And the grieving process is sort of, in a way, a selfish thing because we want them to be with us. And, you hear the slogan, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. And I think about that often, almost every day, to be honest. And it almost rings hollow sometimes because when you lose someone, it hurts. It hurts real bad. And everything changes in your life. You will never forget that person, no matter what. Vital is all about that. Vital is all about the grieving process, remembering our loved ones, and being able to say goodbye, getting the strength to finally say goodbye. And that's not always easy. Now, this is told, of course, in a very special Shinya Tsukamoto way, which, as you can imagine, is our favorite word, unorthodox. Hiroshi has just woken up from a coma and he's got amnesia. He doesn't remember how he got there, who he is, who his parents are, or what the hell is going on. Hiroshi, by the way, is played by Tadanobu Asano, who you may know best as the guy on the cover of Ichi the Killer. Now, Hiroshi's sort of sleepwalking through life now, trying to piece things together. He feels lost, he's adrift. And we are similarly adrift at the beginning of the movie. We don't know what's happening, who this guy is, what's going on, what the story is even. Well, hang tight, we're going to find out. He discovers he has a love for medicine, and it turns out that he was a medical student at some point before he lost his memory. So he goes back to medical school, and it's the one thing that feels like a connection to his previous life, and so comes the time in medical school when they have to dissect a body. That's part of the curriculum. He has to learn how the body works, understand the internal organs, all that yucky stuff. So he does so, and the body he's given turns out to be a young woman. And we discovered quite quickly that the young woman was his girlfriend. She had perished in the accident that took away Hiroshi's memory. And so now, here he is, faced with not only the dead body of his girlfriend, but the fact that he has to dissect her for class and study her from the inside out. Now, before you drop anything in the comments, this movie could have gone 2 ways. One would have been the Jess Franco, Lucio Fulci, kind of really gross, Olaf Ittenbach, those kind of guys could have gone that gross direction where, I've got my girlfriend's dead body and I'm cutting her open. And it could have been a very ugly, fetishistic, disturbing movie. I'm here to tell you, it is not that at all. It is not that movie at all. And I was as relieved as you are to hear it. It is not that at all. It's about a man who has to not only piece his memory together, but has to grieve for the loss of the woman he loved after not realizing that woman even existed. Once he finds the body, he starts having these flashbacks, or what we think are flashbacks. But in Shinya Tsukamoto style, it turns out that they are, I guess the best way to describe them are in-between visions, where his girlfriend is quite alive. As a matter of fact, she's thriving, and her body gyrates in wild ways because in real life, she's still and lying, on this gurney and can not move. So in this vision, imagination world, ethereal plane that they're existing in together for short bursts of time, she is erratic in her movements because she can move, and she wants to move, and she wants to feel her body, and she wants her body to be hers and not just a medical sample, for some students. But that's all, icing on the cake. That's not necessarily spelled out for you. So I'm giving you that as icing because a little icing helps. The movie here is all about Hiroshi coming to terms with the loss and his girlfriend coming to terms that she has died. And it is, in no uncertain terms, one of the most moving and, frankly, in a strange way, important films about grieving that I've ever seen. And that's saying a lot because we're talking about an autopsy on a corpse here. But it's about much more than that, than the autopsy. And it's not a thing where you just have to look deeper. It's right there. You don't have to look too deep. It's very easy to understand this movie. I was not expecting this movie to affect me the way it did. Of course, from the beginning, there's a dude dissecting a body. You don't really know where it's going. And then you see the character of Hiroshi change. You see him realize what he has to deal with. And then he has his moments with Ryoko, his girlfriend, in this in-between imagination. And she's like, I didn't want to die. I wish I could be with you forever. And it just hits you. It hit me, I gotta be honest. It's gonna take me... I'm sorry if it takes a minute for me to get through this, because this is near and dear to my heart. I lost my parents when I was 5 years old. It's neither here nor there, but I want to explain to you why grieving is an important part for me. As hard as it is to say goodbye, we have to, because we go on different paths. The living and the dead go in different paths. And here Hiroshi has to come to that conclusion himself after seeing her from the inside out, knowing her intimately and internally. He realizes, in my opinion, that even though she's physically dead, and he can say, even though it's hard for him towards the end to say goodbye to the physical body, he knows that part of her will live on in him. And while we don't get a definitive conclusion as to what happens to Ryoko's spirit, or this in-between world kind of thing that they're existing in, we understand Hiroshi has made peace with the fact that he will never be with her presently. He will not physically hold her again. Even if he's holding her corpse, he knows he has to let her go. He knows that he has to move on. The movie overall is a stunning portrait of grief and what it can do to us, and how important it is to hug your loved ones every day and not regret a moment of having them with you, because one day, my friends, they won't be with us. I hate to bum us out, but that's the truth. And Vital reminded me of how important it is. Something I know, something I'm aware of constantly, but I think Vital's a reminder to other people who maybe don't think about it. Life is fragile. Life is finite. Nothing exemplifies that better than the last shot of the movie. Well, I'm going to tell you, it's not going to give anything away. The last thing Ryoko says to him in this dream world, in his imagination, whatever you want to call it, she says, do you ever wonder what your last memory will be if you could only have one memory of this world? And then she says, I know what mine would be. And the simplicity of it. Sorry, it's just getting to me because it's just so human. That moment is so human. I'll tell you what her last memory is. It's not a spoiler. It's the rain falling on a dirty patch of ground and the smell of the rain. And that's it. That was her. That was the memory she wanted to hold on to. And it was just so poetic, so perfect, that I'm frankly stunned. I'm stunned. And I did not expect to be in tears by the end of this movie, but I was. As you can imagine, I was. Vital gets 5 stars. Right now, this is my favorite movie that this guy's ever fucking made. It is worth the price of admission alone to this box set. I'm sorry to make this so long. I didn't want this to be a long video. I do apologize. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing that time with me and my friend. So let's talk about, real briefly, the short film here. It's called Haze, obviously directed by Shinya Tsukamoto. It runs about 49 minutes, and it is frightening, claustrophobic, and cringe-inducing. There's one scene where, I mean, it almost doesn't make any sense. Not even Tom Mez, who provides commentary for it, really knows what it means. And I don't think Shinya has really spelled out what it is. Essentially, what Tom and I think it is purgatory, kind of a punishment, a hell punishment. And how hellish indeed. There's one scene where Shinya Tsukamoto plays the main character. He's stuck in these really confined spaces, and there's this one scene where he's stuck in this really narrow wall. And there's a pipe running along the wall. It's so narrow that he has to open his mouth and put his teeth on the pipe because he cannot fit. If he did that, if he didn't do that, he wouldn't fit in this area. And he has to go side to side in this narrow passageway to find a way out. But his teeth are on his pipe. So he has to scrape his teeth along the pipe. Oh, even thinking about it gives me, oh my God. Cringe-inducing. Claustrophobic. If you have claustrophobia, don't watch this movie. It will literally give you anxiety. Panic-inducing. Horrifying. Probably the scariest thing he's ever directed. Frightening. No monsters. There's a little bit of blood and body parts, but it's not really like a gory movie. It's really more about this character stumbling through this claustrophobic nightmare world, and then there's an ending that doesn't necessarily clarify anything. As a matter of fact, it makes things even more complicated. You can come up with an explanation. I'm not going to give you mine now because I don't want to prejudice your viewing of it. But it's a very interesting and harrowing experience, Haze. I'll say that. It's not a fun, goofy kind of thing. It's very much a what the fuck is happening? How long is this thing? Oh my God, I don't know if I can take this kind of thing. But it's worth a watch. Absolutely. Haze is going to get 3 stars from me. It's not going to go any higher because the ending is so obtuse. I kind of wish I had gotten an idea of what the fuck was happening. But maybe that's part of the nightmare. We never get an answer. And in a way, I applaud that. But 3 stars for Haze for me. Briefly, let's go through the special features. There are tons and tons, almost too many special features. We, of course, get commentary by Tom Mez on the 2 films and the short film. Then we get archival interviews with Shinya Tsukamoto on the films and the short film as well. On top of that, you get, let's see if I remember everything. There's a lot. There's behind-the-scenes interviews on Snake of June. There's behind-the-scenes interviews and some behind-the-scenes footage of the making of Vital. And then there's making of featurette for Haze as well. Then there's, I think, a music video for Vital. There's it's not the best song in the world, to be honest. But there's a music video for the end credit song. I believe it's the end credit song. Then there is an interview with the main actress from Haze, or her wandering around, I want to say Locarno. It was during some film festival. I might be missing a few things. There's a lot of featurettes on this one, and I watched them all. And I will say the one with, I forget the actress's name. Let me double check her name real quick because I want to make sure I get it. It doesn't say it here. The actress from Haze, that featurette is about, 20 minutes. You can skip that one. That's not going to really offer anything. And the commentaries musts for sure. Archival interviews with Tsukamoto as well. Some of the behind-the-scenes stuff is fun to just look at, but it can get a little tedious. So that's my feelings on the supplementals, which definitely supplement the viewing and allow you to sort of understand the film a little better and interpret it in your own way as well. So don't skip the supplementals, but you don't need to watch all of them on this disc. Bombaklat! That's it, my friends, for Disc 3, Part 3 of Solid Metal Nightmares, the films of Shinya Tsukamoto. 2 amazing movies, 2 outside-the-box, unorthodox stories. I would say Vital is probably his most normal movie. If you wanted to show anybody a Shinya Tsukamoto movie that not necessarily exemplifies who he is or what he really does, if you just want to show a newbie, introduce him to the filmmaker, Vital is the one. Vital is definitely the Oscar baity type of movie. I mean, it still has weird moments, but it's not as bizarre as A Snake of June or the other movies. Vital is definitely the most toned down, vanilla layperson movie if you wanted to introduce somebody to Tsukamoto. And it's also, in my opinion, his greatest movie. Dealing with so many themes on fucking next level storytelling for sure. I'm impressed, Mr. Tsukamoto. Thank you so much. We got one more disc, which includes the films Kotoko and Killing. I've seen neither, so I'm looking forward to digging in. I hope you'll join me for the final installment, the final battle, Solid Metal Nightmares. My friend, that's it for today. I hope you've had a wonderful, wonderful time with me. I certainly have had a wonderful time sharing my reviews with you. I hope we get to do it again. I really do. It means the world to me that we get to spend some time together. I won't take up any more of it. I will see you again soon. I'll be here. I hope you'll come back and hang out. So until we meet again, remember, I remain to be continued.